Yo guys, what is up? So welcome to another episode of Initial DIY Mods. Today we get the GSX fixed. Finally! So much freaking headache. But it's done, I think. Maybe? Alright, our injectors have arrived. We'll start up here in a minute. Basically what we've done, we had to replace the injectors. Those were bad. The coil pack was bad. The spark plug wires were soaked, so I'm just replaced those anyway as well. And then the idle speed control tested bad, but just a little bit out of spec, but for the most part is actually functioning okay. I actually replaced it with this, and I'm going to try and see if I can get a refund, because that thing, the thing basically, yeah, you can see the crack, this whole piece just cracked off, which is stupid as shit, which not only shouldn't really happen, but again, that's a plastic part. OEM is aluminum, so it's what you get when you cheap out. So I'm going to see if I can go ahead and return that for being a piece of shit. And I think that's basically all that I've done on the car. I cleaned up the wiring a little bit. I took care of all the vacuum leaks. I also was having high idle before on the first startup. I'll show you here in a second. So the reason we were having high idle with that is that the O-ring that came with the idle speed controller wasn't the right size, so it didn't fill up the void enough to actually seal, so we were getting a vacuum leak after the throttle body, bringing in a lot of extra air in, and the ECU was kind of freaking out. The next thing, so we actually ended up buying an O-ring, which cost, it was like $4 for this one O-ring, and then it was like $8 or $9 for shipping, and then I get it and I go, this isn't even the right fucking size, it's the same as the one that wouldn't seal. So I had my $3 Harbor Freight O-ring set and threw one of those in and cranked it down to where it looked like it was a little too big, but as long as it compressed that ring all the way, it sealed up really nicely, and I'm getting a stable idle. Got the fuel pressure a little bit high, around 45 psi, but it seems to start a little bit better with a higher fuel pressure. But again, we'll probably end up tweaking that a little bit when we get on the Mini, because the Mini has a higher fuel pressure. This one's a 60 psi pump from a Walbro 255 liter per hour pump. And the Mini is, I have no idea how many liters per hour, but it is a 70 psi pump, and I'd like to not have to hack into the gas tank. If I can just use the OEM wiring and then set up my own relay and work with that off a triggered source, that would be much better than having to deal with all this other crap. So, that's where we're at right now. Let's just start it up. And the battery's a little dead, so I hooked up the Miata in the back. So that other sound that you hear is the Miata that's actually charging the battery on this car, just so it starts up a little bit easier. Fuel pump. Obviously, it's not going to stay like that. I'm either going to switch to a coil-on plug setup for cleanliness in the Mini Cooper, or I'm going to run this and I'm going to run that inside the manifold once I pull the engine, where it's a little bit easier to set all that up. Brake light switch is broken. Alright, so we're a little low on fuel, but whatever. The oil pressure does not work, so we have an oil pressure gauge, and that one's showing what, like 30 psi-ish. This one's really not the best. It's the cheapest glow shift one there is, and it just doesn't do too well, but it does work. And it seems to be adjusting with the RPM like you would expect. Our vacuum, we're looking at about negative 20 inches of mercury, which is a pretty strong vacuum, so likely there's not too much issues inside the engine with the rings, because it seems to be working fine. But once we get it all warmed up, we'll be able to do a compression test. And although it's idling really well, we do have it set a little bit higher, just so it warms up a little better. Sounds pretty good. If I blip the throttle really fast, just 100% throttle, stop it.